If you ever see an episode of the show SpongeBob SquarePants titled "The Last Straw," do not watch it and shove the tape up your ass. I remember the day vividly. I was just a kid, 9 years old, watching the television night while my parents were having sex in the bedroom. I was on Nickelodeon watching my favorite show, SpongeBob SquarePants, and maybe perhaps some SpongeBob porn parodies. I remember having a lot of SpongeBob merchandise, a SpongeBob plush, SpongeBob pajamas, and even a SpongeBob bed. As I was watching SpongeBob, it suddenly cut off in the middle of the episode for seemingly no reason. On the TV, it said, "Up next, here's a new episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. Don't miss it, or else you will die." Now, as a massive SpongeBob fan, of course, I wanted to watch this episode. Why wouldn't I? So about 5 minutes later, the episode finally played. The episode was titled "The Last Straw," having no music on the title card and blood red background. Seriously, this is another this is going to be another cliche garbage story. I can guarantee you that. There wasn't even an intro before the title card. It just went straight to the episode, seeing every SpongeBob episode since. I was quite confused with this change, but I didn't think much of it. Being the dumb kid I was, big mistake. I didn't think of much of the title then, but now I realize how dark this title really was after watching the episode. And I should have not, because I was a little fucking retard. The episode started as normal, Squidward playing the clarinet as awful as usual. Of course, he's fucking garbage. He's trash. He's trash as usual. Squidward is fucking garbage. Suddenly in the background, you hear SpongeBob and Patrick start to scream. This made me laugh because I thought it was gonna be because I thought this story is gonna be another cliched pile of shit. Squidward, angry about being interrupted, yells out of this window in anger. He tells SpongeBob to shut the fuck up. He says he's preparing for a big concert and he wants no one to mess it up, especially not them. SpongeBob and Patrick apologize, promising not to yell again. So Squidward goes back to playing his clarinet and probably shove the clarinet up his ass until it shits. After a few seconds of him playing his clarinet, SpongeBob and Patrick began to scream again. Louder than before. Angered, Squidward yells out of the window once again for them to shut the fuck up. They apologize once again, but this time Squidward isn't having it. This time he comes out of his house to yell at them. Squidward tells SpongeBob and Patrick that they are the worst neighbors he had ever had. Squidward seemed uncharacteristically sad at this moment, but it was actually kind of depressing. Usually he's pissed off, but now he just has a sad tone. He says that all he ever wanted to do was to have a peaceful and quiet life, and that he wished that they were never born. He sounded like he was at the verge of tears here, but he tells them just to please be quiet for this once. Wanted to cheer Squidward up, SpongeBob and Patrick go into their houses. Squidward goes back to playing his clarinet. Then it cuts to the next day. Squidward goes to the Krusty Krab, saying, "Another day, another horrible life." The first customer asks for a Krabby Patty as usual. However, Squidward just stares at the customer, not saying a word. The customer asks that what's taking him so long, but Squidward continues to stare. Many customers have since come in, and I could hear them getting louder and angrier. Suddenly, Mr. Krabs said, "Mr. Squidward, get in my office now." When Squidward gets to his office, Mr. Krabs tells him that he is fired. He says, I can't run a business with you just staring. Get the customers. We're losing money. This is why you're fired." Mr. Squidward continues to just stare at Mr. Krabs, not saying a word. Mr. Krabs, confused, tells him once again he's fired and then must get out. Suddenly, Squidward starts talking. He says, "Mr. Krabs, I don't care if I'm fired. My life fucking sucks, and I am tired of these people casually walking in me while I'm watching porno. Especially you. I'm fucking tired of SpongeBob. Tired of my job. Tired of my life. I have enough. This is my last straw." Upon hearing this, Mr. Krabs just looks at Squidward. Suddenly, he begins to laugh. He laughs and laughs and laughs. He says, "Nice sob story, Mr. Squidward, but I'm not changing me mind. You're fired. End of the story. Now get out. Get the fuck out." Squidward just sits there and just staring at Mr. Krabs. Then suddenly he lunges at him, begins to strangle Mr. Krabs, yelling at the top of his lungs. Mr. Krabs tries to get to the top of his lungs. Mr. Krabs tries to get Squidward to let go of him. I just sat and watched in horror as Squidward chokes Mr. Krabs for minutes on end. After a few painful minutes, Mr. Krabs' bloodshot eyes roll black. He's dead. This is where the episode went bad to worse. Squidward burst into the kitchen, smashing SpongeBob's face into the stove. You can hear SpongeBob's blood currently scream as he burned his face. This is gonna be a shitty cliche garbage story. Then, after pressing SpongeBob's face on the stove for about a minute, he picks up his head. You can see SpongeBob's detailed burned face with hyper-realistic blood all over him. Of course, the shitty hyper-realistic blood cliche, fucking garbage. Squidward then takes SpongeBob's spatula and goes on a rampage. He kills all of the customers in the Krusty Krab, including Patrick. You can hear their screams as they try to escape with no avail. Squidward laughs as hyper-realistic blood is seen all over the place. There's blood on the windows. Blood on Squidward's clothes. Blood on the doors. The whole room is covered in blood, with not a single soul remaining except for Squidward's. Squidward leaves the Krusty Krab and his rampage continues. He goes onto the chum bucket. Before going inside, he cuts the powers. Squidward goes inside and crushes Plankton in his hands. God, this story is so fucking hilarious. Where you can hear his blood curdling scream and zooms up into Plankton's bloody corpse. His eyes was popped out of his sockets. With hyper-realistic blood coming out, and with the dick being shrunken. He then goes to Sandy's tree dome, then takes a spatula and hit Sandy's tree dome. Begins to crack and breaks open. What the fuck? I don't get it. Squidward goes inside the flooding tree dome and takes Sandy's suit, making sure she would not come out of alive. Squidward walks away, and then you see him walking away. I see Sandy in the background, drowning. After killing Sandy, he goes on a rampage, killing every fish he sees. Hyper-realistic blood is everywhere. How many times do I have to hear the word hyper-realistic and hyper-realistic blood? Come on, man. Look, I'm not against the author or anything, but can you do a little better? After about 2 minutes of Squidward killing, he decides to go home. After his home, he plays his clarinet. There's no music playing. All that is heard is him playing the clarinet. After about a minute of him playing, he stops. He looks at the screen, just stares with bloodshot eyes for about a minute. Felt like hours. The suspenseful music. Squidward takes out a gun, points it into his head, and shoots. Hyper-realistic blood sprays all over the place and outside the window. I see smoke coming from the city. Finally, a horrible episode ended. After the episode ended, I just stared at the screen in shock. How could Squidward do such a thing? How could the creators make such an episode? I threw it all in my SpongeBob merchandise because the sight of SpongeBob reminded me of this episode. I never watched SpongeBob again, so if you ever see an episode of the SpongeBob called The Last Room begin to play, do not watch it. Turn off your TV and run. I think I lost brain cells now. Next story I wrote is a story I made back in 2019, and it's my first story, so I'm putting it in this list because it's so fucking trash. It is absolute fucking garbage. It's called Bubbles' S Word, and I can't say it. But I can't say it on YouTube, but yeah, it's just fake YouTube. It's fake. Anyway, let's read this pile of shit. I worked for MTV Studios since 1994, and we made shows for adults, like working on Beavis and Butthead. But then in 2004, we were working on Trailer Park Boys. It was a big job for us, so some idiot named Andrew Skinner hacked MTV and put some creepy stuff. This sentence here, oh my fucking god damn. That is just so hilariously bad. And this is my first story ever. It was because look at me. Look, hear me out. So, quote unquote, so somehow some idiot named Andrew Skinner hacked MTV and puts creepy stuff in. I wonder if the Shatterator or the Formidable Robot's gonna read this and probably fucking cringe. It's this bad. Like, it's awful. Yeah. So this creepy episode began with Bubbles and the boys. They were hanging out until Bubbles was getting hated on by Julian and Ricky. It was a little strange. They called him names and made boos at him. And the next part, I think there was a part after this I had to delete because it was too graphic, but yeah. It then cuts to Bubbles sitting and crying. His crying sounded so realistic it was horrifying to hear. God damn this realistic cliche. I'd rather have dicks shoved up to my ears. I'd rather have dicks shoved to my ears than hearing that shit. It was just horrific to do this. Then Bubbles shoots himself up in the ass. The end credits the world. We were all terrified because of this. Even a couple threw up. I didn't want to see that again. And that was the story. That was my first creepypasta. It's just that fucking bad. It's absolute trash. Caillou lost episode Leo's Revenge. Let's read this garbage. I used to grow up with a show called Caillou, and many people know it because they know Caillou as a spoiled little bitch, a spoiled little bastard who needs to fucking rot in hell. And no, this is just a character, not a real person, YouTube. Now these days, people hate it because of how childish it is. Sure, I agree it is too childish, but I still watch it to bring back memories, but not as much as I did in the past. Why? A lost episode from Season 1. One day I was playing the Super Mario Bros. Wii when I heard a knock on the door. I wanted to see who was there, but no one was there. I saw a package on my doorstep. Package from where? Opened up, and it was a note from my cousin Susan. Oh, okay. It said, James. My name is James. What I saw from this tape was horrifying. I never want to watch Caillou again. Please destroy this tape, and whatever you do, do not watch it. Why is Susan giving this shit to James? Why is she giving this to him, then? Saw a VHS saying Caillou Season 1 lost episode. Because I was surprised and put the tape in my VCR because I thought she was trying to be a prankster. Because she was usually a prankster. But I should never have thought twice. The intro was normal, but near the end, I saw a frame flash on the screen for a split second. I rewinded it to see what it was, and what I saw nearly made me shit my pants. The image was Leo drawn in hyperrealistic blood, with bloodshot eyes and bloody katanas. Hyperrealism. Realism and hyperrealism. I continued, however. The title card said Leo's Revenge in blood with a black background, and grandmother's narration was absent. It started with Caillou at his house doing some yoga with his mom after they bought a dildo online. Caillou's mom then went to the restroom, and Leo was outside. He asked Caillou, "Hey Caillou, do you want to play tag with me and Clementine?" Caillou said, "I'm busy doing yoga." "I'm busy doing yoga. Maybe some other time." Leo went back to playing tag, but a minute later he came back and started to make funny noises. Caillou said, "Leo, I'm trying to do fucking yoga." At this point, Leo became worried and now was shocked that Caillou swore. Of course, a character swearing. The next scene cuts to Leo crying in what sounded like real better acting than you would think possible. He touched one of his eyes and cried super loudly like if he was injured, and was so loud that I had to turn volume up to 1% because it felt like ear rape. Yep, that cliche. I'm not fucking seeing that. I'm not hearing that fucking garbage. Leo then stopped crying and said, Caillou, you will pay for this. He then ran to the kitchen and started smashing plates for no reason. Leo then pulled a knife and ran to Caillou's house. Caillou was sitting on the couch reading a magazine, but the house was usually messy and swarming with flies. He then heard a knock on the door and went to they can't spell answer right. Who was there? Leo was there and said something. Hey, Caillou, I need to tell you something. Caillou said, What do you need to say? Leo then whispered to Caillou's ear and he said, Wait, what? Leo then said, Burn in hell. Leo then stabs Caillou and kills him. He said, That will teach you a mess with me. Clementine appeared and said, Leo, how could you? Leo then said, Shut up! Burn in hell like Caillou. Clementine's death was censored, but I heard her screaming to death. Leo then said, Clementine, bye-bye. It then cuts to Leo finding the twins, Jason and Jeffrey, with Sarah, and Leo said, You idiots, die! He then stabbed them, but it was censored, and I vomited in sickness. Leo said, Great, all that's left is Rosie. Leo then found Rosie playing the playground and killed her, and it was censored. Rosie's corpse was seen. They can't spell seen right. Even my 6-year-old self could spell seen as S-E-N, not S-C-E-N-E, like seen as a crime scene. With a knife through her head and said, Leo said, Sweet dreams, Rosie. Leo then pulled out a gun and, yeah. Loud static appeared for a minute with Polish text saying in English, You watched this and you are responsible for this carnage, and guess what? You're next! The credits were in Japanese and the Sonic CDUS games were over music in reverse. Of course, there's shit. Then I took the tape out and threw it into the tree where it remains to this day. Fucking lovely. What the fuck did I just read? Alright.